Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for April 4th through 10th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 5 shows, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 2 books. First this week I read Wench by Maxine Kaplan. This is a fantasy story that is also climate fiction. This book is about Tanya, and she's been a tavern wench for about the past 10 years. She's been living and working in the same tavern the entire time for somebody who took her in when she was an orphan as a child, and suddenly that person passes on. She comes back from burying him and finds that this army for the queen has taken over the tavern, so they're taking everything in the tavern for supplies and locking the tavern and just leaving. And she's like, no, wait, this is my tavern. And they're like, can you prove it legally? She's like, he didn't write the one piece of paper I need to do that, so no, I can't. And they're like, well, you'll have to take it up to the queen in council. And she's like, okay, cool, can I come with you? Because I need to talk to the queen. She's the best cook and jack of all trades of her port city, so they take her along, and she seems to realize that they're carrying some weird cargo that she doesn't know what it is, but they're really secretive about it, and of course, that's gonna go missing at some point. There is so much more to the intricacies of this plot because it was about a 500-page standalone fantasy book, so it had a lot more in there, but that's about all I can tell you without major spoilers. The way the climate fiction element comes in is how some of the magic works is based on resource extraction, but then there are these unintended consequences of doing that, so I found that interesting in this different world. For the first quarter to half of this book, I was really into it because I really just wanted to see her get to the queen and council and plead her story and get her tavern back, but then this book became about something else and a little bit dragged on for me at points. Although the word is not used on the page because, again, fantasy setting, I'm pretty sure that our main character is bisexual. This one ended up being about a 3-star read for me. Next we have Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen, which I was reading for the Disability Readathon. This is an epistolary middle grade novel about this girl that is writing letters to her favorite baseball player. In these letters she talks about her home life and her school life and how all she wants to do is pitch in baseball. This player actually years previously met her very briefly and taught her how to throw a knuckleball, and she has been perfecting it, and she just wants to play baseball, but she's a girl and girls can't play baseball, and also she's autistic, so her mother is very overprotective. I absolutely fell in love with this character. I love seeing her make new friends from baseball. I loved her figuring out why her older brother has been acting so strange. I loved her figuring out how she can talk to her mother and have her mother actually listen to her. This book was heartfelt, intersectional, and just wonderful. On to what I watched this week. Of course, we continued watching episodes of Malcolm in the Middle and Bones. I don't have too much to say about those ones individually. Besides, this week we realized that the woman that plays Lois, at least at this time, was married to Bradley Whitford, which explains his appearance in that weird 2-parter episode that had a lot of celebrities in it. This week I also started watching The Chef Show, which is headed by Jon Favreau, and then he also works with an actual chef named Roy, and they basically just have a kitchen set up, invite people to cook with them. It's a nerdy fun time. I'm pretty sure they started recording this without actually knowing what it was going to end up being, and it's a lot of fun because you see some random people that you've heard of before. For example, in the very first segment of the first episode, they make a pepper pot with Pepper Potts, aka Gwyneth Paltrow. Within the next episode, they're at a sit-down meal with Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland and other people from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm only 4 episodes in, but one of the things I love about this show are the transitions. Basically, the theme tune, if you will, consists of this claymation-looking food truck going around these different streets, and during the transitions, you'll see the interior of the truck, and you'll see what they're going to be making, and then you'll see it basically split apart, and then name off all the different things that go into the dish, and then go back into the final dish, and that's just so clever and interesting, and I'm really enjoying it so far. This week we also finished watching The Stand. This is 9 episodes in total. It is a mini-series based on the book of the same name. And they got a remarkably high amount of detail into this mini-series considering the audiobook for this book is 48 hours long and they just had 9 hours to work with. Or slightly less than that because commercial breaks. I did notice at least one subplot that was cut out, but that was fine. I also didn't remember the entire plot of this book because it's a lot, so every once in a while I'd be like, oh yeah, that character, oh I forgot about that character, or I'd be like, I don't remember this part at all, but that's fine. I also laughed really hard when we finally heard Baby Can You Dig Your Man playing in a certain club-like scene because I was waiting for it to happen. I was waiting for it. That song is referenced over and over and over again in the book, and it's a song that was written by one of the characters in the book, so I was just waiting to hear it naturally, and then it happened, and I was very amused. For example, they used Don't Fear the Reaper, which was actually the opening for the old miniseries of this show. I didn't know that, so Chad had to show me that opening, and I do want to watch that series now that I've watched this one, just to see how they compare to each other. Also, that one apparently just has a bunch of celebrities that you're gonna be like, wait, he's in this? She's in this? What is going on? So, you know, I'm looking forward to that eventually. This week I also stayed current on Drag Race, and I have no idea why I thought that this week was going to be the finale. I think that whatever they did for the next time on RuPaul's Drag Race thing at the end of the last episode made me feel like it was going to be the finale, but it wasn't. It was the final four. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I saw a mile away how it was going to end. This week I also put out a video recommending books to each of the queens from season 13, so if you haven't seen it yet, I will link it down below. The one movie I watched this week was Mission Impossible Fallout, and at first I was like, I don't think I remember anything about this. I do remember little bits. This is mostly about trying to make sure that somebody else doesn't get these nuclear things that can cause big explosions. Chad spent a lot of time being like, they shouldn't be storing them like that because people have died because of that in the past, and then like had to stop and read me the Wikipedia article on it, so there's that. And I'm pretty sure the next one is taking place on an actual international space station, so we'll see how that goes. On to the books I listened to, the first one being A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. I ended up absolutely loving this one. Our main character of this book has had a tough time. She's gone through what she calls the trifecta. Her grandmother, who she was very close to, died. Her boyfriend of 3 years dumped her just before prom, and her best friend completely changed her life plan and left for 2 years without telling her. Obviously, this is a big time of grief and sadness for her, but when she does something that absolutely scares her family, they decide that they are sending her to her aunt's place in England. She doesn't want to go because she just wants to work in her family bakery. That's what she's been working towards ever since, and she just wants everybody to let her grieve the way that she wants to grieve, but they are very scared for her, and they figure a change of scenery would be very nice. However, when she gets to her aunt's inn, she worms her way into working in the kitchen, which is good for her because she needs to continue to bake. That's something that she absolutely loves. That's something she does with absolute love. I spent a lot of time listening to this book and just wanting to try every single thing I was hearing because everything sounds delicious. While she's in this small town in England, she obviously meets some people, makes some friends, and there were points in this book where I was just walking along, because I tend to listen to the audiobooks while I'm doing my loop around the lake, and just so happy for her that I almost started crying on my walk, which was just, this is one of those books that just tears emotions right out of you. Even if they're happy emotions, it's just like, here, I'm taking that. And you're like, okay, take it. At first, I was a little bit annoyed with this character because she was all like, oh, they sent me away on this international trip. And I'm like, oh yeah, poor you, traveling. Who would like to do that? But of course I could see why she wanted to stay initially, and I could see why it became a conflict later on. The other book I listened to this week was Last Night at the Telegraph Club. This is by Melinda Lowe, and this is historical fiction set in San Francisco's Chinatown in the 1950s. This book centers Lily, an American girl of Chinese descent living in San Francisco, going to school and coming to realize that she likes girls. There's little clues to this here and there, such as one day she's looking in a magazine and sees this advert for a male impersonator and she cannot take her eyes off him. The advert, which you might guess, is for a place called the Telegraph Club, which is a place she dearly wants to go, but she doesn't know how. This book sits at so many different intersections. Not only is she a woman finding out that she likes other women, she's of Chinese descent, but people often think that she can't speak the language even though she was born there. She's also one of 2 girls left in her high school math class and looked down upon because she actually likes to study and wants to go to college instead of settling down and finding a husband and raising a bunch of kids. There are all these subtle or not so subtle things in her life that are constantly telling her that she is different and that is not good, and that is terrifying at some points. This is also set in the era just before, I believe, McCarthyism, but it's about the time where America was really concerned about communists. So it discussed that and what it meant for Chinese families living in America. It discussed what it's like to be a Chinese immigrant, as well as why some people stayed in America because of wars that were going on. It also discussed how American officials would just take away your immigration papers if they thought that you weren't doing what they wanted you to do and you could face deportation even though you were a citizen. This book covered a lot, but it it didn't do it in a way that was info dumpy. The writing was absolutely beautiful. I really felt for all of these characters, and I highly recommend it. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!